Hey traders, hopefully you're having a good day so far. We're going to be going through the global macro update a little bit. We're mainly just going to be looking at the S&P 500. This is the main index that we do like to look at for the overall stock market, the overall risk on kind of equity sector that we like to bundle that in. So first looking at the daily chart on the S&P 500, this is the future, so it's not going to give any gaps, but what we can see is we broke that all-time high that we hit in February earlier this year. So obviously this was that massive sell-off, and then we're now broken and past the previous all-time high. So the S&P 500 is breaking to all-time highs, which is very risk-on. Equities is a risk-on asset, and people are really piling in. And I think especially because we hit that all-time high, obviously when you're hitting all-time highs, it's a very frequent event. Like all throughout here, you're hitting all-time highs. Maybe not every single day, but throughout the week, you'll hear all-time high pretty frequently. And that's going to be kind of creating more optimism, more hope in the air, especially after kind of we got out of the trenches throughout this huge sell-off, and then the fact that we're able to get above this previous high, for me, definitely signifies that the bulls are going to be present and they're going to be still having confidence throughout the move to the upside. So in my personal belief, I think that this upcoming week is still going to be a risk-on environment. So then we're going to be looking for longs in Bitcoin. We're also going to be looking for longs in altcoins, and we will quickly touch on a correlation chart right here. Just going to pull it up. This is a correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P 500, and then we can see that there's different durations that we're trying to accumulate data from. So if we're looking at 360 days, how correlated is Bitcoin compared to the S&P 500? We're basically at an all-time high, around 0.1, let's say 7, 0.16, somewhere around there. Not extremely correlated when you're looking at such a large time frame, but when you zoom into a smaller time frame, we do see the correlation still turning positive. So on the 180 day, coming down from the 360, we do see that it is still accelerating to the upside, getting to basically around 30% positive correlation, or 0.30 positive correlation. It's just under, but let's just round up here. And on the 90 day, when we get into even a smaller time frame, we were seeing a little bit of a reversal where Bitcoin was being a little bit less correlated with the S&P and traditional risk-on assets, and more in line with gold. But right now we see that kind of going back, where Bitcoin is being more correlated with the S&P. And we can see that right here. We did have a move to the downside, but it does look like we're now increasing the positive correlation. And this is kind of in line with the S&P breaking to an all-time high. Very risk-on environment, in my opinion, for this upcoming week. So I think the S&P will continue to the upside in the next couple weeks and 3 weeks and 1 week and all that stuff. The overall momentum is, I think, it's going to continue to the upside. So then my analysis on Bitcoin and my overall direction is still going to be continuing to the upside, along with the correlations. But then we also talk about some of the other reasons why we think so as well. So that's a little bit of discussion on the S&P. We're now going to go into the discussion on BTC. So that's one of the reasons why I think that BTC is going to go to the upside. I see the S&P moving up, and I see it continuing, and Bitcoin does have a positive correlation, so they're going to be moving in similar directions. Also, on another note, this is the first real major consolidation after the strong push to the upside within the contraction and volatility. So remember, the last two times we had contractions in volatility, the first time was in fall of 2018, like October, November, and then we had that huge sell-off from 6.2K to 3.2K-ish. That was the first major contraction in volatility. The second major contraction in volatility was spring of 2019, where we broke from that consolidation 4.2K all the way to 14K. So we can see that during times of extreme contraction and volatility, we get expansions in price action in either direction, to the downside or to the upside. And usually we've seen them continue after a nice continuation pattern, and this is exactly, in my opinion, what we're seeing right now. We saw a strong push to the upside. This is an impulsive measure in the market, and now we're looking for a pullback, a continuation pattern, or a market breadth. And this is, in my opinion, what we're seeing exactly right now is a market breadth before the next potential push to the upside. So it's kind of all in line with the S&P moving up, and I think Bitcoin is moving up as well after this contraction in volatility. And we can see that right here. This is the volatility index for Bitcoin. And let's just get this guy right here. So I think it's going to go something like this. It's not going to be exact, obviously, but we saw a huge sell-off that appeared kind of like this, and then we saw our first major impulsive push from the buyers, pushing the price significantly to the upside. Now, what we see, in history before is we see these expansionary points and then contraction points in the volatility, and we just went through our expansion point, and now we're, in my opinion, potentially completing the contraction point in the near future, and then we're going to look to potentially capture this next expansion point within the price action. So we got our first impulse contraction, and I think we're going to get the second major impulsive move to the upside. And we can actually look at Bitcoin and see what happened in the previous structures after the major contraction. So this is it right here. So let's just quickly talk about this. This was the contraction in price action right there, where we saw a very, very limited movement to the upside and downside within Bitcoin. Same as what we saw before that big move up recently. What we're looking for is continuation patterns, something like this, right? So this is the point where we're getting a lot of contraction, where we're not really seeing a whole lot of price action movement. And then we're looking for some contractions, some market breadth where we're looking to continue the momentum. And we saw two continuation patterns right here. Oh, let's just take away all that. And then what we also saw in this situation back here is also a continuation pattern. Although it is very small, that's a continuation pattern. You could trade this, you could trade this, you could go like this, and that could be an ascending zone or a symmetrical zone going further to the downside. So we do see that when you have massive contractions in volatility, what you're looking for is continuation patterns to continue the trend of the initial push to either to the upside or to the downside. We got an initial push to the upside, so we're going to be looking to continue the overall momentum to the upside. So that's going to be the overall direction. So now that we understand why we're looking to move, or why we're looking to capture BTC to the upside and our overall direction and biases to the upside, we can now go into different altcoins and discuss what we're able to identify here. So that's going to be BTC Volatility. Not a whole lot to discuss with the other altcoin tools that we like to use, including the BTC Dominance as well as the total altcoin market cap. Not a whole lot has shifted in those two instruments, so I'm not really going to touch on those. But it is good to look at them, and visually you can see that they have not really moved too much. So now we're going to get into the alts. If you have any questions, or if you'd like me to look at any alts that you have or you are looking at in particular, don't hesitate to drop a comment and we'll be sure to go over it. I'm going to grab a quick drink of coffee and then we're going to dive right into VeChain and then Chainlink. Dash also looks very solid. Zcash does look like it's pretty well respected, so we'll go over all four. But first things first, going to get myself a little bit of coffee here. All right, so let's first go over VeChain. Let's go over a large time frame. So this is about all the data we have, and we can see this previous high at around 0.018 is a very key level of resistance, and it was a key level of resistance right here as well. Big rejection, and now we pushed above it on the 2-day or the weekly. It might show a little bit better. Yeah, I think on the weekly it might show a little bit better, where you have a key level of resistance turning into a new level of support. So that's the resistance and that's the level of support, and we're looking to see a squeeze within the support zone before a move to the upside. So now that we understand the larger time frame, we can go on to a smaller time frame, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a contraction in volatility, a contraction in price action before the expansion phase to the upside is going to commence. So on the 4-hour, it does look like it's a very well-respected descending wedge formation, and we can get the projection right there, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zones of support that it is respected there. So I value this as a descending wedge formation, and what we're looking for is ideally a significant break to the upside, creating an impulsive push we're looking to validate a previous resistance as a new level of support in confluence with the descending zone, creating additional demand. And that's what we're looking to do. You could either put a stop entry above the previous high. So if the price goes above the previous high, you're going to get triggered in. Or what we could do is look for limit entries on the pullback at the support level once it's validated with a type A or type B candle closure. So that's going to be an opportunity, in my personal opinion, that we could be looking at, but right now it's still a little bit too early. We'd like to see the impulsive push, and right now the confluence zone right now is 0.02. So that's the zone that I really need to see the price pass before we even look for an opportunity on VeChain, in my personal opinion. But it does look like a well-respected structure, and as long as it's going to contract and have that impulsive push and pullback and hold that pullback at a previous resistance, which is going to be acting as a new level of support, that's going to be the opportunity that we're going to be looking for this particular pair. So overall, it does look pretty strong, but I do think that it could use a little bit more contraction, and then we're looking for that strong impulsive push to kind of commence the momentum for the upside. All right, so this next one's going to be Chainlink. So Chainlink had a little bit of a fake out. This initial trend line was drawn like so. So then if you're looking at it from that trend line, it did break, retest, and kind of fizzle out and not really get that strong impulsive push to the upside. So what we did at this point is we took that out and we said 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's now 4 valid zones of a resistance area, and then we see 1, 2, 3 of a support. So this is a descending channel formation. And ideally what we're looking for is a validation of a break and retest of a key zone. We can see that was a previous support. Support turned to resistance. And ideally that would be a nice structure that we're going to be looking for, because that would be a nice bottoming where we see lower lows, holding of a low. So this is going to be the lowest low of that consolidation. And then we see higher lows. And once we break a key zone, which is around $16, that's going to be where we're looking for retests of that $16 area before we continue the momentum to the upside. So that's going to be my overall direction. Also, if we do look at this like so, let's get our, give me one moment here. I'm looking for the head and shoulders. Was it this one? Yeah, this one right here. So that's going to be the head and shoulders. So that's going to be the neckline right around there. And as long as the right shoulder is able to hold that zone right around here, so let's get our rectangle. So if it's able to hold, let's say 1485, and then start trending up, we could move this up a little bit just so the neckline is in line. What we would be looking for is a break and retest of this neckline, because we do see that's a nice reverse head and shoulders, which is a reversal pattern in line with this descending zone right there. So what we're looking for is a break and retest of this key zone right around there. So in a perfect world, we'd see a nice break, confirming that the neckline, which is right here, is broken, completing the reverse head and shoulders pattern. And then you're looking for a pullback, validating the previous resistance as a new level of support. It could come down a little bit further just because this descending zone is present, but what you're looking for is buy pressure to be coming around somewhere around here, stop loss below that right shoulder, and you're looking to carry the momentum to the upside. So you got that descending zone, so the descending channel right here is broken, creating your continuation pattern. And you also have that reverse head and shoulders, which is giving you a little bit of like a bounce, of like a pullback, and you get your continuation pattern, and you're going to continue the momentum to the upside. So that's a double confirmation that this is a continuation pattern going and continuing to the upside. So Chainlink does look good, but that is kind of the direction I'd like to see it go before we look to enter. So $17 is around that zone that we want to see the price break and retest in order for us to have the highest confirmation of entering a long on Link to continue the overall trend. Alright, so that's going to be Link, and we already talked about VeChain. Quick discussion on Dash, because Dash is a very, in my opinion, a very good spot, or it's in a very good spot, and we'll discuss why right now. This very strong green zone was a strong level of resistance. We can see back in kind of April of 2020, as well as kind of throughout the price action here. We can see key level of support turned into strong level of resistance. So we broke past this zone into an impulsive push, and then we're looking for a pullback before the next impulsive push to continue the overall direction of the trend. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. This is, in my opinion, a pullback, a market breadth before the next potential push to the upside, and we could even get a break and retest of this zone. So that's what we're going to be looking for, and we see a nice descending zone. Squeeze the price towards the apex of the structure, which is right around here. So now that we understand the larger time frame, we can go on to a 4-hour chart, and we can see very well respected. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 well respected zones, and we know that this is going to be a key level of demand. So all we're looking for is that after the contraction, we're looking for that strong initial impulsive push, and then we're looking for a pullback to validate a previous resistance as a new level of support, and that's going to be your validation for a potential entry. And like I said, you could be looking for like a candle closure, a type B, or candle closure type A, and you could put your stop entry there, you could put your stop entry there, you could put a limit entry right there, so if it does come back down, you're entered and triggered, and then you can put your stop loss below the previous low or something along the lines of that. So that's going to be what we're going to be looking for Dash. We don't see an opportunity just yet, but around right now, the $93 zone is going to be the key level of a breakout. So, what we're looking for is maybe one more push to the downside, and that's kind of what we're going to be looking for, is a key level of resistance turning into a new level of support, and then kind of bottoming out, creating higher lows, breaking out of the descending triangle structure, and then you're looking for validation of a new level of support, and that's going to be what we're going to be looking for Dash. So definitely not yet, but it does look pretty solid in terms of a potential structure to carry on the momentum. All right, next thing we're going to be looking at is Zcash or ZEC. So I'm going to get a little bit of coffee, and then we're going to jump right in. All right, so like a lot of patterns, we do see that strong break above a key level of resistance in kind of early February, which is around the $73, $74 range. And if we zoom out all the way, resistance turned to support, resistance turned to support. So we got a nice descending wedge formation, squeezing the price towards the apex with additional support from the previous resistance, which is a major level of significance within a large time frame. On the 4-hour, we do see a very well-respected descending wedge formation with validations of resistance on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you see 1, 2, 3, 4. So very well-respected descending wedge formation with both support and resistance validated 4 times, creating a well-respected zone. What we're looking for is the contraction to squeeze a little bit closer, but then what we're ideally looking for a breakout is we want to see the confluence of the horizontal zone and descending zone break. So that's going to be the confluence zone. We want to see it break and retest as a new level of demand. So what we're looking for is not only this zone to break, but if this does consolidate further, we'll just move this horizontal zone a little bit lower, and then we're looking for a previous major level of resistance to turn into a new level of support in confluence with breaking this zone right here. So that's going to be the overall direction that we're looking to trade, and that's the method that we're going to be looking to validate the breakout, is a zone of confluence, not just in terms of a descending zone, but also looking at the horizontal zone equally to make sure that we're getting market structure validation as well as price action structure validation. So that's going to be ZEC or ZEC. Let's just bring that right over there. All right, so let's now go on to some bigger alts here. So let's just move this a little bit, just so I have a little bit better of a view instead of not looking at like absolutely tiny little things there. Awesome. All right. So we're going to move on to Ethereum and Binance Coin. We're first going to be looking at Ethereum, and then we're going to jump into BNB. All right. So when we're going and zooming out on a larger time frame, we do see that Ethereum is at a much higher point than a lot of different alts, because this is that, so I think it was this is that high. Yeah, February was that high. So we're way above that high that a lot of the alts are retesting. So Ethereum is a relatively strong alt compared to kind of the rest of the altcoin market. So basically what we're looking for It's continuation patterns, and we can see on a smaller time frame, we did have a squeeze that did have a strong impulsive push to the upside, and now we're pulling back to that key zone of confluence from that previous resistance, which is going to be adding to a new level of support, and that series of higher lows, which is still holding, creating additional support. So right now we do see a lot of support at around, let's say just under $400, and that's where I would really like to see the price hold right around there, because that's where a lot of demand is going to be located. And we see a nice descending zone that is currently broken out, but I'd be a little bit hesitant at this point. And when we zoom in, we can see it a little bit more clear, where you see this descending zone right here with 1, 2 validations, not really a third one, so I don't really love the fact that there's only 2, but you do see a squeeze here, and then you see a major level of demand. So the price is either going to break the support zone, which is less likely, or it's going to bounce off of the support zone and continue to the overall direction, which is going to be to the upside. So that's going to be the higher probability situation that I see happening, is just holding this nice bottom, where this is, didn't want that, where the 390, 380 zone is going to be a strong level of support right around there, and then you're going to see the continuation and then a move to the upside. So I think there's some alts that look like they're in a little bit better of a position in terms of an opportunity and a confluent zone, but I think 396 could be an opportunity. I'd be a little bit hesitant. I think also looking for another opportunity where it's a little bit more clear of a descending zone, I think would be pretty solid, because right now we only have 2. So I think Ethereum's a little bit less ideal in terms of like the respectedness of a structure, where you see stuff like ZEC and the other alts that we talked about have a much more clear structure in terms of a price action and how respected a particular price action pattern is. So that's Ethereum, not as great as I'd like, but still pretty solid in terms of where it is, and we want to see the price hold the 380s and like the low 390s at this key zone of confluence for the buyers, because our overall direction and momentum and overall way we want to see the price action go is to the upside to continue the trend, because that would make the most sense in my personal beliefs. So let's just quickly, maybe it's not going to give me an indicator. That's a little odd. Okay, so that's okay. We're going to go to a different time frame. This is going to be Binance Coin, which has not done as well as some of the other alts. So we can see, we like to look at relative strength, right? So the February, mid-ish February high is a very significant point within really every single alt, because we saw a huge move to the upside, and that was a significant high for a lot of the alts that we're looking at today. Ethereum has already surpassed this point. We see ZEC, we see other tokens and projects and coins break above this zone and retest it for a new level of support. Binance Coin has not seen it break above the February high. So relatively speaking, it's not as strong as some of the other alts that we're talking about today, right? So we do have to keep that in mind. But with that said, there is still a nice descending zone that is squeezing the price with a very well-respected ascending zone. So this is a symmetrical triangle that could theoretically turn into ascending triangle, where you have a large horizontal zone of resistance and an ascending zone, which is currently being used as an ascending level of support. 1, 2, 3, 4 very well-respected level of ascending support. And then you got your squeeze. So ideally, you're looking for a break, and then you want to see a break of this previous high turning into a new level of support, and you're looking to continue the overall direction to the upside. You could have it where you get a breakout within the symmetrical triangle right here, but then it still holds this horizontal zone. You come back for a higher low compared to this low, and then you actually break out. So yes, there is a little bit of a chance that you may not get that extension that you're looking for, and you might have to wait a little bit longer until it goes closer to the apex of this ascending zone. But I do still think that BNB is an opportunity to continue the trend to the upside, because overall it's in a pretty well-structured area, but we do have to keep that in mind, that Binance Coin is not as relatively as strong as some of the other tokens and projects that we do like to look at. Doesn't mean that we're not going to trade it, but relative strength is pretty big importance when we are deciding what pair we want to trade. All right, so I'm going to move on to another after just getting the 2 hour here on Binance. All right, cool. Good morning, Pama. Hopefully you're having a really good Monday. Hopefully you had a good weekend as well. So that's going to be a lot of different alts here. Let's take a look at some of the other ones here. Let's just open this up. ALGO and Tron are going to be the two next ones I'm going to look at, and I think that's going to be it, unless someone wants me to look at another alt. So let's take a step back on the daily on ALGO. This is that February high, right? We broke above it. Strong impulsive push breaking above that previous major level of resistance. And we can see that was a zone of significance as well as a key level of support back in the summer of 2019. So this 50-cent range, also a psychological level, is a major key zone for ALGO. And we do see a nice symmetrical triangle getting created right above that zone. So that's great to see in terms of where the structure is on the larger time frame of ALGO. And then when we go on to, let's say, the 4 hour, the resistance is not perfect, but what we do see is previous resistance turn into 1, 2, 3, 4 rejections of a resistance, and then we see previous resistance turn to 1, 2, 3 levels of support. So you do see a contraction and a symmetrical triangle getting created within ALGO. So what we're looking for is a contraction to go a little bit further. You're looking for a strong, significant, impulsive push to break the structure and really confirm that it's a breakout. And then you're looking for pullbacks to validate previous resistances and new level of supports. You're looking for either type A or type B candle closures on around, let's say, the 66-cent range. Let's just go like this, right around there. That would be a good area, in my opinion, in terms of a break and retest to continue the overall direction to the upside. And you do see relative volume or relative for RVol increasing, so more eyes and more people are looking at ALGO and trying to trade and trading this pair. So it's good to see. We want to see people trade what we're trading or what we're looking to trade, because there's going to be more volatility, there's going to be more liquidity, there's going to be smaller spreads, and that's the type of stuff that we're looking to kind of capture, because, you know, not having massive spreads is really only a positive thing, because you're just able to save money on the difference between the ask and bid. So that's going to be ALGO. We're now going to switch on to a different alt here. TRX does also look like it's in a very similar situation, where this around 0.023 area is a very strong level of previous resistance acting as a new level of support. And it's kind of like the previous roof of the major kind of double bottom that we had here. So in terms of TRX, I see two structures that are very similar. We see this major double bottom right here, where the breakout's going to be like 0.04, right around there. And then we see a smaller double bottom, kind of like this, right? And the breakout zone for that was around like 0.023. So we saw an impulsive push break the price out of the double bottom structure, because we see resistance, support at around 0.023. So what we saw is a strong impulsive push. This is that strong impulsive push. We're looking for a pullback to validate the previous resistance right here as a new level of support, and then we're looking to carry the momentum with the next impulsive push. So Tron, in my opinion, is in a pretty great place in terms of an opportunity to long at around 0.023. We're looking for squeezes and contractions and volatility. So when we go on to a 4 hour, it is really nice to see the price holding the low right there. So it's not making a lower low, and we're making lower highs. So this is creating a descending triangle formation, squeezing the price towards the apex of the structure. And what we're looking for is a break and retest of the zone of confluence. So right now we see the previous resistance, support, and resistance sitting around 0.026, let's say. So ideally we're looking for a little bit more of a contraction and volatility, a strong impulsive push to confirm that the momentum is starting and kind of the expansionary phase in the overall market is starting again. And then you're looking for that small pullback to validate that previous resistance as a new level of support. And then you're looking to carry the overall momentum to the upside. So that's going to be the direction and the method that we're going to use to try to capture some exposure on a TRX. And obviously we do see that our vol is increasing. Just overall, we do see not a lot of volume, and then we see the huge amount of volume come in. So that's great to see for the overall kind of trading aspect of this particular pair. All right, so that's going to be it for the crypto market update. I'll quickly touch on the US dollar. Not a whole lot has happened, but we do like to know what happened to the US dollar because this is going to be a really important asset to look at for risk on, risk off. All right, so on the weekly, we do see that we're in a pretty significant level of demand, and that's why we like to stick to the weekly. And it does look like we're just creating a nice consolidation here. So the big question is, are we going to fail and move to the downside? Because right now we're in a consolidation from around 94 to, let's say, 92. So right now, this was an impulsive push. Now we're in a consolidation where the market is failing to make a lower low and it's failing to make a higher high. So right now, we're just going sideways. And what we're looking for is, if we're looking for risk on, so if we're thinking that altcoins are going to continue to the upside, gold and silver is going to continue to the upside, and the S&P is going to continue to the upside, things are going to be continuing overall. We want this to move to the downside because the US dollar is a risk off safe haven currency. So when the S&P is falling, Bitcoin's falling, risk on assets are falling, this is probably going to be moving to the upside quite substantially. But if the US dollar is falling, people are looking to speculate in the markets, stock markets. Also with the US dollar losing value, people are worried about stores of wealth or storing their wealth. So then they're going to look at gold, silver, and other safe havens in terms of the monetary uncertainty aspect of it, as well as the kind of fixed supply attributes that cryptocurrencies as well as metals have. Does play a part in the opportunity here. So we'll see where it goes, but I do think keeping a really close eye on what's happening with the US dollar is very important. So right now we're just in a consolidation. We're looking for either a strong lower low to come in, so then we can look for a valid retest to continue the momentum to the downside, or this could be a reversal where the $92, $93 zone is the bottom for the DXY, and we can slowly start to see a reversal, but that would only come in if we start breaking this resistance at around 94. If we start breaking 94 to the upside and hold that zone, potentially even validate it for a new level of support, that can indicate that we could potentially see a little bit of a risk off environment where stocks take a little bit of a tumble. That could be in line with the S&P just pulling back and retesting that previous all-time high that we had in kind of mid-early February. We don't exactly know, but overall, for this upcoming week, I do expect the overall environment to continue in a risk-off kind of characteristic where I expect Bitcoin to do well. I expect gold and silver to continue to the upside after their current contractions. And S&P, I think, even if it's going to pull back to the all-time high, I do expect it to continue to the upside. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of insight. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. Santurno says, really like your analysis. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And we try to do these Monday, Wednesday, Friday to give you guys a really good understanding of what we're seeing in the markets, not just with like one chart, but we really like to do our multi-asset analysis to get a good understanding of kind of the correlations, the cause-effect relationships, and it really gives us a good understanding of what's happening in the markets, not just opening up a chart of Bitcoin on the daily and then, coming to a conclusion just with one chart, because in our opinion, it takes a little bit more than just a single chart in order to actually accurately, I would say, navigate through the financial markets, because there are a lot of things that are negatively or positively correlated. So really appreciate it that you guys are coming again, and hopefully you had a great weekend. Gonna close it off right here, and we will be back for this Wednesday. So if you're watching the recording and if you have a question and we did not go over it, drop them in the comments. We do look at the questions frequently, and we'll be able to help you out from there. So thank you very much for your time, and until next time, have a good one.